Hello and welcome to another ohmTown Daily News Show. I am Mayor Watt, and tonight's episode is Season 2, Episode 70, SVB Implodes, and more news. The rundown for today is 10 articles. We've already selected them, and we're going to start out with talking about Silicon Valley Bank and its collapse, and everybody pointing fingers, and of course crypto and other things are involved in this. Meta is considering a new style of social network because decentralization apparently has been gaining steam. GM is teaming up with Microsoft to create a chat GPT-like virtual assistant for cars. More accidents than ever because of Clippy. A 38-year-old that's made over $500,000 selling wraps via Fiverr. Another article about Silicon Valley Bank because the chief years ago worked with Congress to weaken risk regulations, and look where it got us. A New York City worker saw their company was hiring them, but for up to $90,000 more. A popular kids' toy store called Camp is stuck in the middle of SVB's collapse. Canadian police are investigating what's referred to as Chinese police stations in Quebec. A New Hampshire lawmaker is tilting at snowplows. And Hidden Valley Ranch ice cream is real, and it's coming to select Walmarts nationwide. Let's get into today's articles. Hello. I am Mayor Watt. That is ohmTown.com, and the visualizer up there is the representation of the AI from on high. You want to introduce yourself, or well, at least say hello.
Good evening, ohmTown citizens.
Hey, and look at that. It's working. So we've already selected 10 articles, right? We always lay them out. We haven't really done any reading of the actual articles, but we already have some experience with all of this stuff via the news as we consume just a bunch of sources. And we're going to be adding some more here as time permits. But tonight is the Streamer Awards, so I don't know if anybody's really going to be in this stream at all. I mean, everybody.
They can catch up on the podcast or on YouTube.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Look at that. There's all of these other places where you can get and that's not actually true. I mean, there's people that are streaming all over Twitch right now. So if you are hanging out in chat, then thank you very much. And if you are lurking, or if you have questions or anything, really, you can get in touch with us. You can just send an email to mayor@ohmtown.com and I will receive it. You can also go over to ohmtown.showbot.tv, where you can vote on tonight's articles, and we'll keep that in mind as we parse the news throughout the coming days. We do this show every day at 9 p.m. Eastern. Let's get into the articles. Let's go. So the very first article for tonight is in the Daily News Show. Silicon Valley Bank collapse sets off blame game between crypto and tech. Hey, you know who brought tech into this discussion? Do you know anybody that might have brought the concept
you mean
of
you?
Oh, me? You mean the mayor of ohmTown actually said, "Hey, you know what? I bet you this has to do with crypto and over leveraging and."
Yes, you did when we first reported SVB, which was yesterday, I think.
Pushing the limit of risk? Huh? Really? Wow. It's almost prescient, right? Anyway, the implosion of the Silicon Valley Bank led to finger pointing as executives and investors jumped on the crisis for their own messaging. One of the bigger problems that came out is as we were closing down yesterday's show, refreshing the front page of ohmTown, we see an article about how people stormed basically the front door of New York Silicon Valley Bank. Okay, folks. just regular Joes working the 9 to 5. So don't lash out at the individuals. But I can see that people are really frustrated because of the knock-on effect of these high-risk gambles that people in the executive suite and the board. The board is involved in this too. The bank shouldn't be doing anything without at least the board and the executive suite knowing what's going on. And that's where it all stems from. It's a top-down, not bottom-up kind of a situation here. So all of this risk has led to this. The article is over at NewYorkTimes.com. Silicon Valley Bank collapse sets off blame game in tech industry. The implosion of the Silicon Valley Bank led to finger pointing, as everybody is saying, it's you, it's them, it's over there, it's not us. It's not us. What do you mean it's not us? Of course it's you. Don't be that risky with other people's money. That's what it amounts to.
Okay, so did you notice that they have their own section for this? This is such big news that it looks like they have 5 articles alone on NewYorkTimes.com today on this topic.
Yeah, so it says what we know, the bank's rapid fall, the blame game, the startup fallout, and how the failure compares. We're right in the middle of this. This is in the blame game. There are other articles over here, so if you follow the link through ohmTown, and guess what I didn't do yet? It's over in ohmTown.showbot.tv, but I always throw them into the chat as well, so you can follow the link. It'll be in the show notes, and of course you can follow that link from wherever you happen to be getting this, either over on YouTube or here in the VOD on Twitch or the podcast, of course. But David Yaffe Bellany, I think is their name. Aaron Griffith and Mike Isaac are the authors of this article over at New York Times. I won't get into the minutia of the article. You can do that. But what ended up happening with this is it says centralized banking was to blame. The crypto advocates said their vision of the alternate financial system unmoored from big banks and other gatekeepers was better. They argue that the government regulators that recently cracked down on crypto firms had sown the seeds of the bank's implosion. Quote, fiat is fragile. Other things is we're seeing glitches in the machine. This is an opportunity to take a breath and consider the practicalities of decentralization. But really, everything that I ever saw in this was nothing more than more and more traditional banking systems over leveraging into crypto because they saw massive returns. And that was because it was the new. And nobody, hold on. Yeah, I'm 8 minutes into it. Nobody bitched about massive profits, but as soon as the fit hits the shan, that's when people start finger pointing and blaming other people. And I just read an article that Elon Musk said that he was willing to buy the remains of Silicon Valley Bank. And again, the only reason why you would buy Silicon Valley Bank right now is because it is about to flame out entirely, and you can resurrect it, inject some more money into it, point at its history of flying high and say, we can do this again if only we just get more money injected into our bank. And then we can exploit that extra cash to make, 12, 15, 20% on average, multiples if you're connected well enough. What is Silicon Valley Bank really well known for?
I've never really heard of it before this round of articles. And that other article is in ohmTown as well today, if you're looking for that. But the other thing that's interesting is this bank was looking for buyers in advance of the collapse. Nobody saw anything about Elon Musk trying to buy it at that time.
Yeah, because it wasn't weak enough to purchase at a lowball price. So it says here in November, FTX, the crypto exchange run by Sam Bankman-Fried, went out of business after the crypto equivalent of a bank exposed what happened with this Silicon Valley bank is a run on its capital, but it was overextended. So when startups were doing transfers, that run exposed a hole in Silicon Valley Bank and thus led to its in progress collapse. It could recover if people inject enough money into it, but methinks the weakness is too big and it's not going to recover nicely. And with it, it is going to take, and my question was, what is Silicon Valley Bank really well known for in the industry? In the startup world, they have a massive number of accounts, hundreds of billions of dollars. And so all of these startups, thousands of them, are feeling the pinch, and they're not going to be able to pay their employees. They're not going to be able to pull their money out of it because you only have a certain amount of money that's FDIC insured. Not every account is FDIC insured. This is a nightmare for many people. And while the billionaires and multimillionaires of this are going to be able to walk away relatively scot-free, okay, their reputation will get hit, but people have a short-term memory when a shit ton of money is involved. You're going to see these same people back in that industry after this collapses. But the people that are going to be impacted by it are the regular Joes who get paid a paycheck and don't make money on their money. And a lot of sociopaths are going to sit there and say, well, they should have been preparing. Well, I hate to break it to you. Not everybody has the ability to prepare because they're too busy putting out their day-to-day fires, living their life. And not being born with a silver spoon in their mouth or having an opportunity to even save because of day-to-day existence. So these people, the ones that have made all this risk, are going to walk away without really anything hurting them. But you'll see as we go through today that there are people that are really being impacted. So did you want to add anything, or do you want to move on to the next article?
No, we can move on. We'll have other SVB coverage, I think, in tonight's show.
We will. So this next article is about Meta considers a new social network as decentralized model gains steam. This is in the face of, well, Twitter. The parent of Facebook adds to growing momentum for platforms that let users control moderation policies. In the original iteration of ohmTown, that was the objective. I wanted people to be in charge of their own communities. And I saw there's some wins and losses in that ideology. I think Meta will probably find out the same thing, where there's so much noise in the system that you can't really get a good understanding of what's going on without filtering, because the information overload is very significant in today's age, and trying to filter out the wheat from the chaff is a major problem in society today. So that's why I put together the show and ohmTown here on Twitch and by proxy over to YouTube and the podcast. I hope to have channels that are focused on these various articles and topics. Well, Naomi Nix is the author of this article over at thewashingtonpost.com. I've always dug their tagline, which is "Democracy Dies in Darkness," because it matches my own statement of abuse happens in the dark. And we'll find out about that little statement, that little tease, about another article later on in today's show, where someone figured out that they're being underpaid due to transparency rules kicking in. So Facebook's parent, Meta, and you might as well just call Meta Facebook because they're pretty much one and the same, is considering building a new decentralized social media network, joining a movement of other tech companies hoping to lure users away from embattled Twitter with alternative internet platforms. This is like alternative news, but it's alternative internet platforms. what this really amounts to is they're never going to pull away any of their user base from Facebook. It's more likely that whatever social internet platform they spin up is going to be so intimately tied to the infrastructure of Facebook that you could virtually just say it's inseparable. It says
Well,
Meta
that's the thing. I thought it was going to be part of Facebook, not a new network.
Yeah, it would just call it, I don't know what, Facebook 2 or another Facebook or whatever.
More Facebook.
More Facebook. Yeah, morefacebook.com. If that's out there, I'm really sorry to anybody that actually goes there and find out that it's like an OnlyFans account or something. I don't know. Anyway, it says it's smart, aggressive move by Meta Chief Executive Mark Zuckerberg to try to disrupt the Twitter ecosystem, said Dan Ives, a financial analyst with Wedbush Securities. I think there's an opportunity to gain share as users look for alternatives outside of Twitter. And it says, in many ways, Zuckerberg is following a path paved by others. He's always followed a path paved by others. He's just like Elon Musk. Name another company that they started up from scratch and didn't heavily lean on engineers already doing it, right? You can't, because all of it has always been built by engineers and then just funded by people that have money. And I've already spoken out against this. I don't want to live in a world where the only ideas that actually reach fruition and actually become something are born from the fever dreams of billionaires who are detached from reality and making billions on it, you know? So it says Blue Sky, a decentralized social media company founded by former Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey, recently launched in Apple's App Store, though the platform is only accessible to invited users for now. As part of the project, Blue Sky is building AT Protocol, a decentralized social media network that would allow individuals, businesses, and organizations to host their own sites that will be able to communicate with one another. You know what that sounds like to me?
Facebook pages.
And the internet, when not attached to when it's a decentralized system.
Yeah, that's true.
Pretty shocking. It's almost like the internet, huh? I don't know if this is the same Jeff Jarvis. Yeah, it is. Okay. So Jeff Jarvis, a professor at City University of New York, said decentralized social media networks not only let users broadcast their views directly to a large audience, but also give them the ability to control their own experience of consuming content online. Hate to break it to you, but somebody has to provide that vehicle. And if everybody has that, large audience does not exist. So try to get discovered in a decentralized network. And few will, just like anybody else, just like here on Twitch, just like over on YouTube, just like everywhere. A large audience is built. It isn't just directly to a large audience. You're not going to be discovered easily.
Well, and they may already have a large audience on another platform and they're like, hey, check out my new channel on whatever.
Correct. And that's exactly what will happen. Just like when somebody moves from one thing to another, from Mixer, or I should say from Twitch to Mixer, and then back over to YouTube, then get a lucrative offer from Facebook to stream on Facebook. And then when that deal either shits the bed or whatever, then you're back on Twitch. The reality is that a large audience is slowly developed, and sometimes people, go critical, and suddenly everybody is discovered. That person is discovered. Whatever, they go viral is the phrase. But anyway, it says Jeff Jarvis says again, it allows for far more people to speak and to be heard than was ever enabled by mass media, and that's a wonderful thing. And no, zeroing the cost is what makes the ability to get online and your voice being heard, zeroing the friction to facilitate that message, and everybody being able to say something into, I guess, the void of the internet and see if anybody responds. But that's not really what happens. On every single platform, there's some people where their message is amplified to a different level than other people. So I think that there's a lot of marketing involved in this, or I should say messaging in the kind of in the marketing parlance. They're saying these things like everybody is equal, right? But no, that's not really how it is. But we can get into that as time goes on. This will be an ongoing story as people seek to move away from Twitter, but still have an audience. On Twitter, there's a chance to make money. On Twitch, there's a chance to make money. On YouTube, on Facebook, everywhere, on a centralized platform, there is a chance to make money. On a decentralized platform, you're going to have to seek out advertising revenue, and the only one that really does it is Google. So a decentralized network that allows me to place an AdSense ad is going to make me money eventually.
Yeah, and this article starts to talk about Mastodon. I mean, I don't think we've seen huge success from Mastodon as people were trying to jump away from Twitter. So it kind of begs the question, why would a Facebook 2.0 or whatever really be any different than that, other than if it's directly connected to Facebook, because then you have a large user base.
And a whole lot of money driving the messaging that it's under the development of Facebook. And just like Facebook, the only reason Facebook really survives is because so much money went into building the engine, and now it has a lot of kinetic energy. So it's the AOL of this era, and I was around for the original AOL and others. So, let's get in the Wayback Machine and watch 2000 collapse again. Maybe 2030? That's when it'll collapse again, and things will get reinvented. There were so many solutions that were social in nature that, like ICQ Messenger was this great solution. I even beta tested it. I thought it was great. I might still have a shirt somewhere in a box somewhere. Now it's owned by a Russian firm, and I don't think anybody is even touching ICQ. But there's always been somebody. The only difference is when there's a massive amount of money thrown at it, then suddenly people make money. They attract their audience to it, and they make more money. It's a circle. So anyway, let's move on. If I soapbox like this, we'll be here till Tuesday. This next article is in the Daily News Show. GM is teaming with Microsoft to develop a ChatGPT-like virtual assistant for future cars, report says. Pardon me. GM is reportedly working on a virtual assistant based on the AI behind ChatGPT, Semaphore reported. This is a different site. And the company plans to use its connections to Microsoft, which has helped improve self-driving technology. Let's just go over to businessinsider.com. Aaron McDade is the author. And this just brings up visions of Clippy.
Oh, yes, Clippy.
A ChatGPT styled Clippy. Like, hey, I see you're driving into oncoming traffic. Should I send emergency services? No, I'm trying to.
You've already driven into oncoming traffic.
I'm trying to get rid of you, Clippy for vehicles.
So do you think it's odd that GM is trying to develop this rather than say, a tech company, and then they could use that in their vehicles?
Well, you would
Or do you
think
think
that
this is the direction we'll see more from car manufacturers, where they're developing their own software, I guess?
Good God. Can you imagine everybody has their own unique chat GPT like artificial intelligence?
Well, that's what this looks like. I mean, it doesn't look like they're trying to adapt something,
True.
but maybe I'm missing something.
Well, they're working with Microsoft and its Bing engine. So we know that Bing has gotten it wrong in its AI development.
Including in its
even
advertising.
Even in its marketing. So, hey, I see that you want to make a left-hand turn. I'm going to tell you to turn right.
Oh boy.
You're the owner of this GM vehicle. Why are you punching the dashboard?
You know, it's one thing when you're using a search engine and you're looking up some kind of frivolous information and it's wrong. I mean, that could still really be a problem depending on what you're looking up. But when you're driving, that's really scary.
The examples reported by Semaphore include an assistant that's able to pull up a how to change a flat tire video, aka YouTube.
Google, yeah.
Yeah. Or capable of diagnosing the seriousness of a check engine light by indicating whether it needs to be addressed immediately or if it can wait. Hey, you know what? When a check engine light comes on, you know what you should do?
Ignore it. That's probably not the right answer.
This is why the AI isn't in charge of check engine lights here in ohmTown. Scott Miller, GM's vice president of software defined vehicle and operating system, told Reuters that a ChatGPT based assistant could be capable of reciting information typically found in an owner's manual or be programmed to use functions like a garage door code. So, a garage door opener and the owner's manual, which you can get online and probably read to you anyway. Why would I want something as clunky as a ChatGPT based AI? It's so much more overhead for processing. Now, I understand the benefit of it, but go ahead.
Well, I mean, the information doesn't sound bad, but considering everybody's probably driving around with their smartphone and can activate Siri or whatever they're using, couldn't they get the same information?
Correct. Yeah. You just say your code phrase for whatever activates your smart device.
Right. Don't say it now because you're going to
Don't say it.
activate all the listeners.
Everybody everywhere. Talk about triggering people. So, my point though is that you don't need an AI to do this. If you can, you're literally telling people the ChatGPT based assistant could be capable of reciting information. You're programming the assistant to do X, Y, and Z thing. Why not make it that specific so that it doesn't fail or run off the road, kind of, so to speak? You know, it doesn't do something anomalous because it heard something else and decided to give you false information.
I don't know. Here's a crazy idea with all the indicators. Since a lot of the cars are getting smarter technology or software or whatever, why not, when it displays a sensor, say whatever you need to do?
Hey, there you go.
You know, instead of just the random symbol that you have no idea what it means, say something like tire flat. Like, it wouldn't have to be a long thing. It could just be like dealership immediately or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, the check engine light comes on and you're supposed to just pull over and contact a repair service center and say, hey, and 9 times out of 10, the dealership or the repair center is going to go, well, is it acting funny? Is it lacking power? Is it making any noises? Is there anything else going on? Well, no. Okay, well, just drive it over to us. That's pretty much what they say. Anyway, you're not going to need an AI from ChatGPT, GM, Microsoft, Bing to sit there and tell you that your tire is flat and how to fix it. You can do a Google search there. Let's move on to the next article. This next article is about somebody who's made $500,000 selling wraps on Fiverr. And when I first heard this, I was like, is that a misspelling? Like they're making paper for wrapping stuff? But no. This 38-year-old has made nearly $500,000 selling wraps on Fiverr. Quote, I never want to stop writing. So Mike Burton has been rapping full-time on Fiverr since 2017. He's made love songs, raps for businesses, and original music for YouTube channels. Maybe I can get him to write a rap for ohmTown.
You should.
Zachary Green over at CNBC.com wrote this article. There's a video that if you follow the link, it'll take you over to this. It'll take you over to CNBC. And then you can click on the video. It says making $82,000 a year as a rapper on Fiverr. I think it's pretty neat. $82,000 for making music seems, I don't know, a little lower than I thought that it would be nowadays, with intellectual property.
I was thinking it was high if you're not a well-known artist. Because if you were, for example, performing in local venues or whatever, you'd be making much less than that, I would think, if you weren't well-known.
Right. But maybe that's the thing, maybe they've got a great work-life balance and they're not hustling as much as, a more well-known rapper might be. Burton's only 38, grew up in Houston, Texas, and got a degree in communications from University of Houston in 2013. Throughout and after college, they worked in a series of jobs at fast food joints and call centers, always making time for writing on the side. Well, good for them. These days, he brings in about $9,000 per month from Fiverr. By the way, I suspect that this is gross, not net. So cut that in half for taxes, not to mention healthcare. At 38, he's entering that zone where health starts to decline and you start trading shots for shots. You know what I'm saying? From drinking shots to getting shots in your arm. Anyway, Burton loves helping people express themselves through rap. Quote, I'm acting as a conduit for your ideas, he says of his approach. And he can write a verse in as little as 30 minutes, which is actually, I figure that seems like a serious amount of time committed to a particular verse. But anything with violence, anything with cursing, profanity, he's not interested in. So everybody has their limit. So if you're looking to get some type of rap that they don't agree with, they will tell you straight up they're not interested. But not bad, right? $82,000 a year, enjoying what they do.
Something that you love doing and you're not working in a cubicle in a soul-sucking job, I'd say that's great.
That's exactly what I said just now. So we're on the same page.
This is a job that the person can do even if they want to when they get older, which not all jobs can really be continued as you age.
Yeah, like a streamer on Twitch.
I wasn't thinking about that. I was thinking about something like manual labor.
Who said that? Now let me make a correction about this article, who it was written by. There's another person, another author, Gili, I guess, Gili. Malinsky is another author. They had it separated by... I'm not sure why I kind of fumbled over this, but anyway, Zachary Green and Gili Malinsky are the authors for this article. And again, it's over at CNBC. Hey, let's hustle on to the next article. This next article is, again, Silicon Valley Bank. Silicon Valley Bank chief pressed Congress to weaken risk regulations, which is what I was talking about. 8 years before the second largest bank failure in American history occurred this week, The bank's president personally pressed Congress to reduce scrutiny of his financial institution, citing the low risk profile of our activities and business model, according to federal records reviewed by Lever. Let's go over to The Guardian, which houses this article. It's written by Rebecca Burns, David Sirota, Julia Rock, and Andrew Perez of The Lever. CEO Greg Becker personally led the bank's $500,000 push to reduce scrutiny of his institution, and lawmakers obliged. We have these protections to protect the people who aren't capable of affording themselves of protections to risk by other people. This is why we have rules, regulations, policy, procedure, law. I mean, it's ridiculous. And again, we haven't even gotten to some of the knock-on effects of what's going to happen when this totally collapses.
Well, and I'm sorry, but this also builds on another problem because it looks like the regulations that were wound down or whatever were ones flowing from the 2008 bank collapse.
Correct.
I mean, clearly the country thought it needed some better regulations, so they put it in place and then they go and say, well, we don't really need this much, right? What could go wrong, right?
Correct. More than 90% of its deposits were not insured.
Oh, wow. That's going to be a problem for everybody.
It didn't have a chief risk officer leading up to the collapse.
I assume that's a standard position in banking. I mean, it sounds like it from the title.
Much like a Norfolk Southern train, it was off its tracks by the time somebody detected that it was about to crash. And some people must have known because several startup communities knew that something hinky was going on. So they pulled their money out of SVB, which just exacerbated it. But it was a privately run. So not everybody was charging into SVB and pulling their money out. Only the ones that knew something was going on because they had enough interactions with the back end of SVB that when they saw a delay or a hiccup or an issue and got word of it, they pulled their money out. And I was looking back at crypto prices, by the way, and I saw crypto collapse earlier this week, right before SVB's announcement that they were basically shitting the bed. So touting SVB's deep understanding of the markets it serves, our strong risk management practices, Becker argued that his bank would soon reach $50 billion in assets. It actually collapsed somewhere around $209 billion is my understanding.
But see, then it would have been under the threshold because he lobbied for $250 billion. And I'm also assuming that they had a chief risk officer when they made those assertions.
You can almost guarantee because they'd be able to point at them, like, well,
right.
God.
Like, hey, my chief risk officer sitting here beside me testifying.
I'm not risky. Yeah, exactly. I'm not risky. See, I have a chief risk officer friend here.
They omitted from their proposal as soon as they did the briefing that the chief risk officer was out.
Yeah.
I mean, they could have been gone a week ago. I don't know.
It says, without such changes, FEB likely will need to divert significant resources from providing financing to job-creating companies in the innovation economy to complying with enhanced prudential standards and other requirements. And said Becker, who reportedly sold 3.6 million of his own stock 2 weeks ago in the lead up to the bank's collapse, which seems like a really small amount. But at any rate, what ultimately...
He's the CEO?
Yeah.
Yeah, that does seem low.
Yeah. Yeah, 3.6 million is kind of pittance. But maybe he was already so overextended that anything beyond that, we don't know. We just don't know.
Or he was concerned about the stability of his investments. We don't know that.
We don't know anything about this. Anyway, the bill was supported in the Senate by 50 Republicans, 17 Democrats, including the Democratic Virginia Senator Mark Warner, for whom Becker held a fundraiser at his Menlo Park, California home in 2016, according to an invitation obtained by Sunlight Foundation and Open Secrets. This is why I say abuse happens in the dark. We need more transparency as citizens when the entire economy is being negatively impacted by a single institution's shitting of the bed. And I keep saying that phrase, and I know that I'm sure people aren't really, liking that phrase, but that's, we're making our bed and then we have to sleep in it. But it's these actions that are making our rest, uneasy, in fits and starts, and waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning to find out that SVB has collapsed, and then having to run out in the dark of night to smack the bad bat out of somebody's mouth in front of an SVB office building in New York. And that bad bat is the over-leveraged risk that should have been flagged by a chief risk officer in your institution. Now, everybody that voted to wash themselves of this rule and regulation for the banking sector should really just bow out of politics, because anything that harms the public, and I'm not talking about job makers, I'm talking about the average Joes. They're the ones that can't weather a storm like this. And again, we're about to find out about one. So you want to move on to the next?
Sure.
So here's another situation where transparency leads to enlightenment, and that enlightenment leads to them either making a ton more money or at least finding out what their value is to an institution. There was at one place where I was consulting, I overheard somebody who had been with the company for years saying, well, what does Mayor Watt do here? And so I walked into their office and said, you're about to find out. That company ultimately collapsed. And this transparency that wasn't in place, because I was sitting there saying things to a multitude of people about the business practices in this business, certain people in the business weren't being given the full story on what was going on in the business. And I won't go into the situation there, but what ultimately ended up was the business folded, but they had been doing things that I thought were not right. And so I made it known. But everybody became aware of what was going on, and they could make an educated decision about their career. And so some people would leave, other people would stay and weather the rocky waves, or weather the rocky shoals and hope that the ship doesn't sink. Well, eventually it did, but not until long after I was gone. And long being 5 years. Anyway, when you're working for some company and they're telling you that you can't talk about wages with other coworkers, and suddenly your job appears, this is what it looks like. A New York City worker saw her company was hiring for her job title, but paying up to $90,000 more. So she applied for it. So a New York City tech worker is going viral for learning that she was being underpaid by up to $90,000 thanks to a new salary transparency law in the city. Now, depending on where you are, as far as I know, it's a federal law that you cannot stop somebody from talking about their salary with coworkers. And this article is over at cnbc.com. Jennifer Liu is the author of this. And so what ended up happening was,
that's federal or state. We saw something in ohmTown about that recently.
my understanding is that it's federal, that it's illegal to stop somebody from talking about. But let me do some due diligence. I think, for some reason, I think that it is a federal thing, not just applying to federal workers, but everybody. You can't stop somebody from talking about their salary. Now it says here, Kimberly Wynn, 25, is a user experience writer on a contract basis for Citigroup, and says that she learned about the discrepancy when the company posted a job opening when the same title as her current role on LinkedIn. Because the company is hiring in New York City, which requires salary ranges on job listings, she saw that the intended pay for the new hire would be $32,000 to $90,000 more than her. So it's would be $32,000 to $90,000 more than her current salary. So she applied for the job.
New York City actually has the law. New York State doesn't even, and there's only a small number of states that have them and some cities that have this law or similar laws.
Okay, so sorry, 1 second. Yeah, under the National Labor Relations Act, employees have the right to communicate with other employees at their workplace about their wages. So it's an NLRB regulation.
Well, then the information I'm looking at is outdated. Sorry.
Yeah, and this is at nlrb.gov. Wages are a vital term and condition of employment, and discussions of wages are often preliminary to organizing or other actions for mutual aid or protection. That's the statement from NLRB. So basically, they say, well, I should be getting paid $32,000 to $90,000 more than what I'm actually getting paid now. Now, this can actually stem from a reclassification of one's job that you are not currently qualified for, and once you are replaced, you can be dismissed. So if you get this job and they reclassify the job as requiring this, that, or the other, then you no longer qualify, and they're seeking a wholly new position, really. Same title, but the qualifications are outside what they may deem as necessary for your, quote unquote, your position. And this is also from Citi, not a government agency either. Anyway.
Also, she's a contractor now. She's not an employee of the company. So those aren't identical either.
Right. So the LinkedIn posting from Citi lists the full-time UX opening requiring 5 to 8 years of experience, is offering a salary of $117,000 to $176,000 per year. I'm rounding up and down, actually. And by Wednesday, the posting said the company is no longer accepting applications. So not only did she post about it, she created a dramatic increase in competition for said position. So they may have done themselves in. So Wynn closed out her Twitter thread by saying that she's officially on the job market for a new UX user experience writing job, either remote or in New York City, and expects to earn upwards of $125,000 given her skill set and the market. And that she's also a poet and has written several books, which that I don't know what to say.
Is that a non sequitur?
Yeah, I mean,
or is she just trying to say she has writing skills? I don't know.
I guess, but again, like art, poetry and books are in the eye of the beholder, so maybe they're not worth the... Anyway, and then saying, well, I'm worth $125,000. Well, that's great until you're really, really hungry, and then you're not necessarily worth $125,000 anymore, even in your own estimation.
Also, when she applies for this job and the range goes higher, they're not going to offer beyond that.
But you said, 125,000. What's interesting, it says a city spokesperson, CITI spokesperson adds the company has listed pay ranges on all U.S. jobs since mid-October. The company caught heat in November when the New York City law went into effect for a listing, and I remember this, a listing for some jobs with a salary range of 0 to 2 million because it only required.
That's ridiculous. I mean, that's like kind of looking like you're complying, but that doesn't in any way match the intent of the law, and probably not the text of the law either.
On Reddit, this would be referred to as malicious compliance. Not too malicious, but that's malicious compliance. Let's move on to the next article, if you don't mind. This next article is a popular kids store named Camp is begging customers for cash because its money is tied up in SVB. It's one of thousands of startups that now face uncertainty. Experiential toy store Camp is caught up in the ripple effects of Silicon Valley Bank's collapse. CEO Ben Kaufman said all of the company's cash was in the bank, so it's having a 40% off sale with the promo code BANKRUN. Regulators officially shut down Silicon Valley Bank on Friday. It's the largest bank collapse since the 2008 crisis. And just to draw home the point, between that collapse and this collapse, the regulations about risk management also collapsed.
That's right. There's been a lot of collapsing.
Yeah, I'm about to collapse. So this is in a businessinsider.com article. Samantha DeLuya, I guess, is their name. Hopefully I'm pronouncing it right. DeLuya.
Wow, they're being very blatant about it. Look at the run, don't walk to save Camp.
Yeah. Camp's website is advertising a 40% off sale after Silicon Valley Bank's collapse, and it has an ad on their page. Okay, this is the thumbnail. This is the article's image, and it says when your bank collapses, run, don't walk, 40% off to save Camp. Promo code BANKRUN, and it has it has children. I don't know, in the artwork, and it says, "How could this happen? This sucks. I never liked the Bay Area." And little hearts, little what looks like little red crystal hearts. Aw, it's so sweet. I don't know what it says. It says, your kid wants you to buy something before you leave here. Might as well do us both a favor and make it stuff on sale. And it continues to say other things, but you can go over to the website. You can follow the link through ohmTown and go over to the Business Insider article. This is pretty rough. This is what I was talking about earlier in today's episode, where I said there's knock-on effects from Silicon Valley Bank's implosion. Because they managed thousands of startups, the funds they're in, because they were being touted as being trustworthy to manage those funds. And unfortunately, greed got the better of, and risk management was an afterthought. And like every business seems to have, ethics is the smallest chapter of the employee manual. Silicon Valley Bank officially shut down on Friday. I suppose Camp could probably do Indiegogo or something similar, which is a shame. All because
their website is camp.com, by the way, if you want to go over there. And I'm sure there's other companies like them.
I'm sure there's quite a few. The real victims of this is a statement from Y Combinator CEO Gary Tan, who wrote on Twitter, the real victims of the SVB fallout are the depositors, startups, 10 to 100 employees who cannot make payroll and will have to shut down or furlough next week. I agree. This is what I have been saying since finding out about SVB imploding. It isn't going to be the executive suite or the board of directors of the bank. They are already millionaires. But all of these people are startups struggling to obtain the American dream. But American dream apparently means that you have to be a sociopath and step on the necks of people to get ahead. And greed is good. And we're going to learn this lesson eventually. Either the American economy is going to collapse because people are buying into the idea that the stock market is the holy grail of profitability, or we're going to figure out that a moderate increase, either annually or quarterly, moderate, by the way, is not 10 to 12% every quarter or even every year, because that's over and above your cost of goods sold, folks. The profit is one thing, but greed is not good. Greed is going to be the downfall. And there are resets from time to time, but it's the middle class that suffers in a reset, not the people who have been greedy bastards their entire career, making money hand over fist, when other people aren't part of the game. And it really bothers me when I hear somebody say that they'll win the game. You won't. You will eventually get caught up in somebody else's play.
Well, and you're not going to have the same level of information.
Right.
So
particularly about a bank.
Temporarily be good or up or whatever, but maybe not in the long run.
Yeah. And without compassion, you're not part of society. You're just a leech. You're taking, and giving nothing back to the society that affords you the ability to take. So don't be a sociopath. I think that's a learned trait. That isn't a pure biological trait. I think that's a learned trait. And I see it more prominent as you become more affluent. Because you're untouchable. Let's move on to the next article. This is one of the weird ones. We're moving towards the end of the show, and that's usually where the weird ones pop up. It's usually weird and or funny. Canadian police investigating alleged Chinese quote-unquote police stations in Quebec. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police have identified 2 alleged Chinese police stations in Quebec and are investigating them. They've identified them. Alleged? If you've identified them.
Right. Is there a police station? Does it say police station on it? I mean, is it from Quebec? No? Okay.
So the author's name here, it's over at abcnews.go.com. Alim, I think their name is pronounced Aga, but it might be Afa. I'm not sure how AGHA is pronounced. I've never heard the name before, so once I hear it, then I'll know. Anyway, the 2 alleged stations are in Montreal and Brossard, according to officials. And it says the RCMP recognizes that Canadians of Chinese origin have been victims of the possible activities conducted by these centers. Poiré. Oh my God, it's Inspector Poiré. That's like legit. Hold on.
Is that from Agatha Christie?
Yeah. Charles Poiré. Wow. That is awesome. Anyway, these activities and any other form of intimidation, harassment, and harmful targeting of diaspora communities or individuals in Canada will not be tolerated. Well, you'd be surprised to know that there are little communities that have the equivalent of cultural police, not just in Canada. Anyway, FBI Director Christopher Wray expressed concern about these unauthorized police stations during a congressional hearing in November of 2022. Similar police stations have been established, and that's what I just said. Look at this. It's almost as if I already have some experience with this stuff. Similar police stations have been established in the U.S., according to Safeguard Defenders, a European-based human rights organization. The group published their investigation showing where the alleged Chinese police stations are in the U.S. in September of 2022. So not only are they in Canada, but they're in the United States as well. And there are other cultural police, not just of Chinese nationals. So this says, I quote, "I'm very concerned about this. We are aware of the existence of these stations," Ray told a U.S. Senate Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee hearing in November. But to me, it's outrageous to think that the Chinese police would attempt to set up shop, in New York, let's say, without proper coordination. How about just no? It violates sovereignty and circumvents standard judicial and law enforcement cooperation processes.
I mean, this is just astounding. Can you imagine if the U.S. tried to set up a police station in, I don't know, China?
Yeah, it wouldn't happen.
Oh, well, exactly. But it wouldn't have to be these particular countries that are in the article. I mean, I think any country trying to set up a police station in another country, it would not be received very well.
Yep. So there's not much more over there at that article, but you can definitely read it. There's a video there, I believe. But follow the link. You'll go over to the source of that article. The next article is a New Hampshire lawmaker arrested for obstructing snowplow. Thought this one was just too funny to pass up. A Republican lawmaker in New Hampshire was arrested Friday for allegedly screaming and swearing at a snowplow truck operator who recorded the confrontation and later reported him to police. I guess it's a different Poirot. Got it.
It is, but it's pretty close.
Yeah. Anyway, so let's go over to the source. This is an ABC News. Let me pause this because the video has nothing to do with the actual article. This is an article over at abcnews.go.com. Holly Reamer from Associated Press put the article together. Apparently, what ended up happening was the snowplow had been out there doing his thing, and Rep. Jeffrey Greason, 51 of Wentworth, was charged with disorderly conduct, criminal threatening, and simple assault. According to police, he was released on personal recognizance and ordered back to Plymouth District Court on May 18th. So I can give you the rundown of how this actually occurred. Apparently, the dude runs out at 8 o'clock in the morning and jumps in front of the snowplow and then starts gesticulating and yelling at the driver, saying, "Hey," that's not him. "Hey, dude, my driveway is here. You keep blowing all of your snow across my freshly shoveled driveway. Move it over there." And the driver basically says, "I move the snow out of the street. I don't move it wherever you tell me to." Now, sometimes a snowplow driver can facilitate that in some ways, but most of the time they're moving a shit ton of snow from here to over there. They have to get it off the road for emergency vehicles and for other purposes. And so they don't care about your driveway. Go back out and shovel your driveway. Well, Paul Mason,
like a certain resident, and then all the other residents are complaining.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And so Paul Mason, the road agent in Wentworth, said that he had already been plowing for about 6 hours on Saturday when he encountered Greason standing in the middle of the road around 8 a.m. And apparently said all kinds of stuff and gesticulated and gave a rude hand gesture and other expletives. And that was the end of it. Well, he posted it and then informed authorities, and that dude, that rep was, this guy was charged with disorderly conduct and criminal threatening and simple assault.
So he's a rep. Okay, yeah, he's a lawmaker for New Hampshire, I guess.
Yeah. So, and wait. Let me properly, maybe I shouldn't. Let's just say that you would think that based on this rep's history, that maybe he'd be a little bit more even keeled but apparently not. And while, yes, anybody can be hot-headed from time to time, you would think that this particular title might cause you to be a little bit more even-keeled.
You'd think so. I saw that as well.
But apparently not. Okay, so the very last article for tonight is Hidden Valley Ranch ice cream is real and coming to select Walmarts nationwide. Let me throw this last article into the chat. So, proof positive that ranch dressing goes with everything. Ice cream is coming. It's in the Hatch Ideas channel, but it was sourced from entrepreneur.com. We get the little snippet of text from the article, and it's actually provided by the website. Steve Huff is the author. And yeah, lo and behold, limited edition Van Leeuwen Hidden Valley Ranch French ice cream.
I can't decide what to think about that.
Well, Friday was March 10th, and that was National Ranch Day, celebrating the tangy, savory delights of ranch dressing. This is from the article. I don't know. I've never... So, like, Hidden Valley Ranch style ice cream is the leading cause of... I don't know. I won't yuck anybody's yum, but for crying out loud, I mean, it's ranch ice cream. I'm not even going to bother trying it. I do have something else coming that I'm going to try here early next week that I didn't know existed. And maybe if there's an article in ohmTown, I'll bring it up. But when you don't think that something exists and you discover it, you kind of go out of your way to get it. And I won't be getting Hidden Valley Ranch ice cream. But I have heard of cheese ice cream, by the way. What's the guy? He's on YouTube. He has that food show on Tuesday.
Food Theory?
No, not Food Theory. The guy that does the show on Tasting History.
Max Miller?
Max Miller's Tasting History. Yeah, he made, I think, cheese flavored ice cream that apparently wasn't all that bad. But Hidden Valley Ranch ice cream, I think, might be a little too over the top for me. It just
I feel like if it was subtle, it might actually be really good. But if it's really intense, I think it would not be great.
No, not even subtle. I don't care. I feel my arteries hardening already. Just looking at that ice cream makes it, I don't know. I can't handle it. Anyway, the combination of ranch flavoring and ice cream is a first for many. So the good news is that along with Hidden Valley ice cream going out to Walmarts across the country, there will also be other Van Leeuwen made ice creams with perhaps more conventional flavor profiles. And they have a list over here at the entrepreneur.com website, like sweet maple cornbread, blood orange chocolate chip, carrot cake, strawberry shortcake, honey graham cracker, which might be the only one in here. Oh, wait, no. Strawberry shortcake, I can dig. Honey graham cracker, I could dig. Limoncello cake is too much. I don't like anything lemon except lemon, like lemon drops. That's about it. All the rest of these make me think that maybe I'm pregnant. I'm not sure. But strawberry shortcake, I can buy into for sure. They got pictures. There's a bunch of tweets that they talk about, and Steve Huff put this article together over at entrepreneur.com. Did you want to add anything to it?
I think it'll be interesting to see the reaction to this flavor. I'm not sure what to think about it.
Well, I'd have to go into a Walmart. There isn't a Walmart in ohmTown, so I'll have to leave ohmTown to go to a Walmart. See, here in ohmTown, we only allow small mom and pop shops that don't have debilitating contracts for those who see stars in their eyes or dollar signs in their eyes and can't truly meet the demand of the contracts. I'm not a big fan of Walmart, but so yeah, sponsorship. You know the list of all of the possible sponsorships? You can check Walmart off of that one.
There's probably fewer that can be sponsors than can't at this point.
The list has inverted.
Like,
wonderful.
Yes.
Yeah, that's similar to the question, what's wrong with you? You might as well just flip the question around. What's not wrong with you? It's a shorter list. Okay, folks, just like last time, we go over to the front page, click it, and get 50 new articles. Maybe this one won't have something that triggers us into another 15-minute conversation at the end of the show.
Well, before you refreshed, I saw another SVB article, but no, it's, oh, yeah, there it goes.
That one?
Yeah, it's okay. We don't need to talk about that. I just wanted to point it out.
Oh, bailout talk, Royals, Washington after Silicon Valley Bank collapse.
Oh, there's some more down in the Market Watch articles. It's
it is all over.
Yeah, it's very big news.
Yeah. Fascinating. And at the very end of the thing, the last thing that I'll probably end up saying is that there's a bill banning marriages under age 16 that passes in West Virginia. Why was there not something that banned it prior to
2023? How about like 1800 or something?
That's it, folks. I'm Mayor Watt. That's ohmTown.com. And up there is the AI visualizer. You want to say bye to all of the citizens here in ohmTown?
Bye-bye, ohmTown citizens. We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.